So yesterday at the Proton launch of the IMA 7 PHEV, we had Dato Sri Johari Abdul Ghani, the Minister for Miti, gracing the event and officiating the launch of the vehicle. Well, very lucky for us, he took the opportunity to clarify a piece of policy that will completely change the landscape of the EV industry in Malaysia, or as we know it up to now. This concerns the 250,000 ringgit and 200 kilowatt limitation for imported EV. So if you are not up to date yet, basically Miti comes up with a policy stating that from now onwards, imported EV will have to fulfill two requirements. Number one, they have to be sold above 250,000 ringgit in Malaysia. And number two, they need to have a power rating of 200 kilowatt, meaning about 270 horsepower. Now, in the speech, the minister made it clear that it was his decision, his policy to put in place. And he gave a few reasons to justify his decision. Now, I'm paraphrasing here because I did not have a habit of recording people's speeches, and speeches don't make for very good content, to be honest. So for those of you who were there were hundreds of you around. Correct me if I'm wrong because I'm paraphrasing from memory. So the first thing the minister said was that there was a large number of foreign brands applying to launch CBU EV in Malaysia with unbelievable low prices. Then he followed up with number two. He said that he doesn't want Malaysia to be a dumping ground for cheap EVs. I presume from China, that's what he meant. And number three, he followed up with the intention of wanting only quality EV to come into Malaysia with high tech, not just cheap prices. So this is what I gained from his speech. Now, since the minister is asking for our feedback, hoping that we will agree with him, here I am making this video to tell you, dear minister, that I wholeheartedly disagree with your policy, dear minister. Now, let me outline why, based on the reasoning you give, one by one. First of all, we are not a dumping ground for Chinese EV. Even if the Chinese are dumping, there's a lot of other better candidates in Southeast Asia like Thailand or Indonesia to dump cheap EV or low-tech EV, as you put it, than Malaysia, which is so resistant to EV up to now with only a 4% EV conversion rate. And here's the thing, even if we are the dumping ground, whatever they dump here is way more advanced than what we have right now. Have you seen the kind of cars that we are selling here, dear minister? Sub 100,000 ringgit, sub 150,000 ringgit. A large majority of them are years, if not decades, behind what the Chinese would be dumping. So even if they dump here, I think it's still called good news because they're dumping more high-tech things than what we are getting. Let's take the IMA 7 PHEV as an example. I fully expect Proton to dump unwanted Starship 7, which is our IMA 7 PHEV, in Malaysia. The reason is because if you look at the spec of Starship 7, not just in China, but also in other countries like Australia, they are getting two battery packs. One is an 8 kilowatt, one is a 19 kilowatt, returning 55 kilometer range and 120 kilometer range, respectively. That's not what we get, for our IMA 7 PHEV. Now, why do I expect Geely to dump here? The reason is because starting from 1st Jan 2026, a few weeks ago, for PHEV to qualify as an EV and receive the benefit to qualify as an EV, it needs to have a minimum of 100 kilometers pure EV range. That means all the 8 kilowatt, 55 kilometer ones are no longer qualified as an EV in China. I expect them to dump this here, but they didn't. Have you looked at our spec? We are getting 18 kilowatt. That means their high spec is our bottom spec and a 30 kilowatt, returning 100 kilometers and 170 kilometers. Now, the numbers differ a little bit because of different calculation, but basically, China and Australia's high spec Starship 7 is our low spec entry level IMA 7. And that would have already passed Chinese PHEV qualification as an EV requirements or regulation. Geely is giving us better than what the Chinese are getting. So not only are we getting pretty decent pricing, we are getting state-of-the-art level of PHEV. Why they didn't dump here is because Chery also brings in very competitive PHEV. If Geely brings us their 8 kilowatt, 55 kilometer, it will be a laughing stock. So, dear Minister, we are not a dumping ground. We are getting state-of-the-art product. And what is forcing Proton to do so? It's competition. Number two, Datuk Seri, you said you don't want only cheap prices EV to come in. You want high-tech, high-quality EVs to come in. I don't think I need to remind you, Mr. Minister, as a representative of the rakyat, that the majority, a large majority of Malaysians don't care about having the latest, the most high-tech of vehicle because they can't afford it anyway, and it's not their primary concern. What the majority of the rakyat wants is cheap, reliable, and affordable transport. Now, of course, we have some options that are relatively affordable. You have Pingguo and you have IMAS 5. But by artificially limiting the choices available to sub 100,000 ringgit market, we are sending the wrong signal to the people who are selling cars at 50, 60, 70,000 ringgit. I just spoke to a few representatives from Proton, and they were telling me they will rejoice. They breathed a sigh of relief when QVE was launched with a 110,000 ringgit price tag. Don't tell me the 80,000 thing. Right? We all know it's 110,000 ringgit. Of course, if I work for Proton, that's good. If I work with Proton, that's good. But 99.999 Malaysians don't work for Proton, dear Minister. When a big corporation sigh a breath of relief, that's bad news for the rest of us. And again, let's not talk abstract concepts. Let's talk actual example. Prior to this, CBU EV needs to sell at above 100,000 ringgit. Look at the competition between the titans of the industry, between Geely, Proton, and BYD. Originally, BYD Atto 3 launched at almost 170,000 ringgit. And when Proton IMAS 7 launched, 105 or 108 or something like that, it forces the hands of BYD and Leapmotor and practically every direct competitor. And look at Atto 3. It went from almost 170,000 down to 118. 50,000 ringgit, dear Minister. That is the result of competition. And now you increase the limit up to 250,000 ringgit, artificially limiting competition for 90% of Malaysian market. And number three, while I agree with you, we need to promote CKD. But why do we need to enact an outright ban on importation of vehicle below 250,000 ringgit? And if you feel that the current 15% tax for imported EVs for countries with free trade agreement is not adequate to give protection to CKD or to give incentive to CKD players, I am very confident there is a host of toolkits available at your disposal to further incentivize CKD operations that did not amount to a wholesale qualitative ban on importation of EV. Such a measure is disproportionate to the extent of burning down the house to kill a fly. And a natural question of an inquiring mind, witnessing the burning of a house to kill a fly, is to ask whether the original intention was even to kill the fly in the first place. Fundamentally, I think the role of the government in such a situation is to promote healthy and sufficient competition in all segments of the market, not just selected segments. And any measure to protect CKD operations must be balanced against the interests of the rakyat. And if ever the balance tilt against the rakyat, then the rakyat's consideration must always outweigh economic consideration.